Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the revision.
Oh,
we
yeah.
take a look at your favorite and not so favorite movies to see if we can make them better. I'm your host, Derek.
And I'm Jason. Thanks for joining us. We are so excited to get into this. We've tried a few podcasts in the past, but I'm excited about this one. We're going to try to rework some movies and make them the gold they should have been, even if they're fool's gold. So,
and hopefully we can actually, make this a long-running series.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And not like 4 episodes.
We'll make it this time. This is the one. This is the one that
this
sticks.
Is the one.
This is our basement boys that actually takes off.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we're
starting with a banger here.
This week we're starting with a banger. We're jumping in with Flash, trying to be a little relevant. Honestly, excited to get into this one.
You're talking about the 2013 Flashpoint Paradox movie, right?
Yeah,
we're watching that.
Yeah, exactly. No. We're talking about the live action adaptation of that, even though it didn't say it was.
Oh.
The half adaptation, we'll say. Why don't you run us through the synopsis then? Why don't you run us through the synopsis so we can get into this?
I will do that. It's very short, apparently. In the film, Barry travels back in time to prevent his mother's death, which brings unintended consequences.
Ooh, scary. So yeah, obviously spoilers.
That's literally the whole summary.
Oh my gosh. Obviously spoilers in this. We've both seen the film, both have opinions on it, and let's go ahead and get into them. So you want to start us off? You watched it twice, so I guess you probably have stronger opinions than I do.
I've been through a lot of DC, a lot of Flash in the last week, because I watched The Flash, and then I watched the Flashpoint Paradox, then I watched Batman v Superman, then I watched Snyder Cut, and then I watched The Flash again. So I've just because I really wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I wanted to watch Batman '89 before seeing it the second time. I didn't have time before we were shooting this episode, but I have seen it, so I do get some of the references. It's been a little bit, but I have seen it.
Yeah, I mean the character. There's a lot of separation between Keaton's character in those movies and then in this one. So as far as story goes, I don't think you're missing anything.
Yeah, there is some references, and we're gonna get into whether the callbacks work or not. But they are there, and I do recognize them. So
yeah, I have not watched as much this week. I mean, I have seen all those other films, but this is all I watched this week. So both of us are big DC fanboys, so we just got to get that out of the way.
To be fair, when I say that I saw this all in the span of a week, it was actually more like the span of like 4 days.
Yeah. I mean,
like
that's how you
I saw each of these movies a movie a day, so.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Actually, I want you to go first.
All right.
I want to see, what did you like in
this
film?
So let me set the table a little bit, because obviously, like I said, big DC fan, coming off Snyder Cut. I loved Snyder Cut. I know it has its problems, but it hit a lot of the marks that I've been waiting for in a DC movie. So as a fan, love it. I can see some objective problems from just normal movie making. Obviously, it's very long, and it's a commitment to watch, but I'm all for it. But I loved what Snyder did fixing some of the parts in that story. And also, I love the Flashpoint Paradox film, the animated film. I haven't read the comic yet.
If you haven't seen it, please go see it.
Yeah, it is a must-watch.
It has no right being as good as it is.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So both of those kind of had rather big expectations attached, Flashpoint especially, because I knew that this film was derivative of that story. But I also know that DC has some stinkers. I mean, they have the good ones, but it's kind of hit or miss with DC. I mean, I'd be kind of interested in getting into Shazam 2 with you, but that one had mixed reactions.
One day.
They've had some Suicide Squad 2016. I know you like that too. I enjoy it, but
that would be a very interesting one to do.
yeah, that one has its roughness too. So I was like, okay, it could go either way. I mean, right off the bat, I had very mixed feelings immediately because I like to do a lot of visual effects and stuff, and let's just say some of the visual effects in this movie are out of this world. And some of them are like 20 years behind. I'm like, dang, they rendered this on a PS2.
Not even 5 minutes. We're already into the CGI.
I had to bring it up. I had to bring it up because that was my reaction.
Let's just get into it.
That was the first thing, was that baby scene. They're just like, hey, look, we can't do people with CGI, and I was like, oh gosh, and it just was the whole movie. So it really took me out of it.
We're not gonna on it, in my opinion.
But we're not gonna touch on that.
Let's not let. Well, actually, I was gonna touch on. Let's not touch on any of the comments that have been made about it from the people who made it, from the director. I'm not going to address that.
Yeah,
I don't want to bring it up. We're going to judge the movie on its own merit.
Yeah. But, yeah, so immediately I'm like, I don't know. I really liked Affleck at the beginning. I was like, oh, okay, he's doing a pretty good job. I thought
that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Both times when I saw it was even though it was supposed to be the background noise, sort of, the bank robbery going on with him chasing him down in the daylight on the Batcycle was one of the better parts of the movie for me.
Yeah, that part was great. However, I wasn't super stoked with the lasso of truth scene. That was a little bit
okay, it almost worked for me.
Campy,
it worked for me with the Batman part when Flash got involved. That was probably the one. Most of the Flash's humor actually worked for me in the movie, if I'll be honest. But Barry's little add-on line, did not.
I just did not like.
That was one cringe.
It was very frustrating because I'm like, okay, Batman has like a very long history of being immune to any sort of like mind tampering, and including the lasso. So I was just like, that's out of character.
Trying to be on. I don't know, because I kind of think like where he's not actually actively trying to go against her.
Yeah, but you could tell the panicked look on his face. I was like, I never want to see a panicked look on Batman's face ever again.
I kind of liked it
unless it's like Joker. Joker's the only person that should be able to get that face out of Batman.
The only thing that I could actually give a decent reason is they kind of hinted at maybe I'm reading into it, but I noticed it both times. They noticed that they definitely like each other.
Oh, yeah. They were definitely playing into the Justice League TV show. Justice League Unlimited relationship. So that I'm down for.
If Bruce Wayne, I'm just wondering if he is like lowering his guard with her. Yeah. And that would be why. Because the only people he has been willing to be vulnerable with is the people who actually could mean something to him personally as Bruce Wayne and not Batman.
Right. I just didn't like the setting that was happening, especially because they just ousted Batfleck at the end of the film. Spoiler alert. So like there was no reason to do it in this film. But
I liked it.
But it's a thing.
I liked his line.
But
it was funny.
So I mean, right off the bat, I have very mixed feelings. So, but honestly, once like the first half, it was a little rough. The two Barrys both had some peculiarities for me.
Let's go on characters because I think this is going to make this an easier situation here.
I mean, I want to say before, like, I really liked the second half of the film. I had very little problems with the second half of the film.
Okay, we might have some very interesting.
I want to say this is one part that I'm curious where you're at. Before we go back on the characters, because I want to get through the story bits, because there's definitely things we could improve with the characters.
Yeah.
But the things at the end that I did, granted, some of the time bowl thing, that one's hard for me to settle on.
Like that.
It's hard for me to like. I liked the concept of it, but I really liked the way that they did Flash getting his powers back. It did great to homage the source material, and I thought it was a really strong emotional moment. I think it could have been enhanced. I think it could have been better, but I really liked what they were doing.
There is probably a better way, but
honestly, the only thing I would have changed with that, we're already getting into changes. The only thing I would have changed with that scene is when Barry from the past touches our Barry and you see the little lightning spark. I would have made that more obvious. I would have done a bigger spark because that was such a good idea. And I was like, oh, please let him get the powers from the other Flash afterwards. And I was like, that was actually great because I loved Supergirl stepping up. I loved Batman understanding Flash's motivation, and I loved young Barry like being the one to bring him back. I thought that scene, like emotional beat for the character development and the story, that was one of the best parts of the movie for the story aspect. And as that was also probably Ezra Miller's best performance aspect as well for me.
As young Barry, in my opinion, that was maybe his best Like between Young Barry and regular Barry, but especially Young Barry, he really brought the emotion in that in
that
a way
scene
that
specifically
actually really worked.
Yeah.
Yes. But I will say, I kind of disagree. I like the subtle lightning.
Interesting. I mean,
I like it.
I like it
because you don't have to make it a big moment.
Not like a big explosion, but I knew, like, I was sitting there waiting for it, so I saw it, and to me, I feel like a lot of people might not have picked up on it. Maybe that was just a fear of mine. That's the only reason I would want it bigger, is because I would want it to be obvious. I honestly would want the other characters to see it too. Because none of we see it as the audience, we get a quick shot of it, but I don't think that any of the other characters saw that. And to me, that
to be fair, they're seeing two of the same person. I don't think they're going to question it.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, because I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly.
I don't know. I feel like this is nitpicking a little.
It's nitpicking a little bit because I liked that scene. I didn't want to spend too much time on that one.
I feel like we could get, especially with this show, and we develop this podcast for sure. I think we need, we're trying to find the right balance of not making an entirely new movie, but I also think we want to make sure we're not changing unnecessarily.
No. I just wanted to talk about that scene because I really liked it.
And I do too. That is actually one of the better that's one of the better moments of the movie. I would agree with you on that.
The other one we will talk about, but we'll save it for the end, is the Dark Flash scene.
Yes.
I'm curious about your thoughts on that. I have my thoughts on it, but I think we save that for later. I think we rewind now. I just wanted to highlight that there's some really good parts of this movie, and I did enjoy it a lot.
Let's get into specific characters because I really think that's going to help us probably with figuring out. So specifically, if we're talking about Batman, we talked about what we liked, what we didn't like about Batfleck, because that's pretty much all he's in the movie.
I think we get into the two Flashes. That's where we start.
Well, I was going to transition to a different Batman, but
I think we save. I think we kind of go in the flow of the movie. We start with our two Flashes because to me that was kind of the thing that took a while to get used to.
Okay.
I will say, if I could change one thing, only one thing about this movie, I would get rid of Young Flash's laugh. Oh my gosh, that drove me crazy.
I might disagree.
I found, I know he was supposed to be annoying, but it was too much for me. It was too much for me. But so let's focus more on the characters here, on the actual characters.
Let's get into the tale of the two berries right here.
Yeah, so. I liked the way that I liked their interaction. I honestly, the one thing that I think Young Flash was kind of missing, which kind of leads into that Dark Flash scene later, is a sense of heroicism. I feel like he that Barry Allen as a character across the board has a sense of heroicism. He wants to be a hero. He wants to be the good guy. But it takes a while to pull that out of Young Flash, because when he's first I could be a superhero, I could be cool and run around. Yeah, I get that's how just a young person would respond, and so that made sense. But I feel like it was a missed opportunity to sort of highlight him wanting to be a hero, when he gets the powers for the first time.
I don't think he necessarily wanted to, because again, we're dealing with a Barry that never lost his mom and was the driving force of him trying to be a hero.
Right.
That is literally the driving force of Barry Allen.
Right. But later, because we have that young Barry has that motivation, and there's not a clear moment where we see that as something that's going to bubble up bigger later. It just kind of comes out of it kind of comes out of nowhere because he sees it in his older self and it inspires him, which is good. But I feel to me, where I would have done it, because I like his first reaction makes sense. He's like, I'm gonna be a superhero. It's gonna be crazy. I get powers. What? But when older Barry is going to take him to give him the powers, I almost like that older Barry is trying to get his own powers back, and young Barry doesn't understand what's going on, and he tries to save him, and that's how young Barry gets the powers. I would almost do it that way. So that way it's a moment of him trying to do the right thing and maybe messing things up, but you can see, he wants to protect him, so then that kind of carries through the movie of this underlying sense of wanting to save people. I'm curious what your thoughts on that's one change that off the bat I feel like that would have been a much stronger way to introduce that young Barry, so that he's a more rootable character earlier on.
I don't think he's really supposed to be.
Well, that's why I like it. It's because it's not like immediately, oh, he's the best character ever, but it's like, oh no, there's a glimmer of heroicism in there. It's still Barry, but he hasn't really learned to be Barry yet. And we still keep him learning to be Flash the same, him goofing off and stuff. I liked that. I like the direction of it, at least.
I'm kind of thinking back to, which I know I'm using the old movie's logic here against itself, and it's a flawed movie, which I will openly admit. But Bruce Wayne, both of them really both say at the same time, Batfleck and Michael Keaton, their pain is what made them. They wouldn't know who they are without it. So I don't really, with that, and that's a theme, because they keep pressing it. That's definitely a theme through the movie. I don't see, when we change this significant moment in Barry's life, why there has to necessarily be that sense of heroism. Because, spoiler alert, he's the bad guy by the end, or he's supposed to end up being him.
Right.
And I almost think it's...
But his reason for doing it is to save Kara. That is the only reason that happens. And the only reason... He either only wants to save Kara because he cares about saving people, or because he wants to marry her. And I prefer the former to the latter because they knew each other for 20 minutes.
I don't even think it's that. I don't think that's where his reasoning's coming from.
Maybe I misunderstood.
That's not at all.
Because to me, I understood it as he wants to save people because otherwise his Earth is going to get destroyed. I guess he wants to save his mom.
He wants to save his mom, because that's the thing. They focused on the whole thing of him listening in on Older Barry, on his whole reasoning. So he recognizes if, like, and Older Barry has definitely been like, hey, the world is going to end if we don't fix this. So I think that's where he's coming from, because Barry did that whole big, and this is where the payoff comes from, the big whole outburst scene earlier of, you have it so easy, you have mom, basically.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite get it at first, but you can tell it connected with him later once he figures it out. And I think that's where this comes from, is when he's in battle and he realizes, wait, Older Barry told me I could go back in time. I'm just going to keep doing it. I can't do this. He saved mom. We can go with this. We can fix this.
Yeah.
And I think he recognizes what I think Older Barry, overcorrected almost, potentially with him. Because now all he's thinking is, oh, there's a universe without my mom. I've been silly in not recognizing how lucky I am in this universe. I have to preserve it. And I think he takes that to an extreme because he's also young and unpredictable.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely get that. I mean, clearly that's the decision he's making when he decides to stop Dark Flash, right? He's saying, you know what, the world is more important than me growing up with the mom. I'm willing to make the sacrifice. That's the job. Like that's the theme you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely the moment the choice he's making there. I wish it was maybe highlighted a little bit more than that. I would still have young Flash save or get in the way of older Flash getting his powers back. Because Barry the other reason I would change that is because Barry says, you don't want these powers, you don't want to be a hero, it's not as fun as it sounds. And then he goes and gives him powers 5 minutes later, and that made no sense to me. So regardless, I would still have it accidentally give the powers to young Barry instead of older Barry. But I can see where you're coming from.
So we go with the to compare it to the Flashpoint paradox, and that one, for the people who haven't seen it, when he goes back, he doesn't have his powers when he gets to the alternate world. Are you saying that we go with that logic off the bat?
So
because you're saying getting in the way.
I would have the same thing happen where honestly, yeah, I would do that where he loses his powers when he goes back. And then he's trying to get them back, and then younger Barry gets it. Yeah, I should clarify that.
Because you could still have a scenario where he's in that situation for some reason. And you could say then, because
I mean, I guess then you have the problems with my solution. You have the problems of him impressing his younger self with the speed doesn't quite work. But if you think about it, there was one thing that specifically Barry Allen mentions with the spaghetti analogy that they keep using in the movie, where there's this idea of fate, where you have multiple things
happening. And so I think you could actually make that a stronger theme of fate in the movie by having him for some reason.
I was so mad there wasn't a Dr. Fate cameo. Can I just say I was so disappointed when they kept saying Fate and then Fate wasn't in there. I was like, bro, missed opportunity.
It wasn't needed. I understand your pain, and it's only because we need more Dr. Fate.
Because I love Dr. Fate. At least he was in Black Adam. Rip that movie.
Anyway, my point of view on this is how we could take it. Is you have regular Barry, we have a flashpoint paradox situation. He goes back. He doesn't have his powers when he gets back, and he recognizes the day, and he's like, "Oh, for me to," and once he realizes there is a second Barry, and he's like, "Oh, I need to leave" or something like that. He's like, "Oh, it's the day. So if I go get my powers, I can get out of here." And when he goes there, even though his other self wouldn't have normally a reason there, you could be like, oh, him and his dumb friends were like breaking in or something. I don't know. Just give some and it could be outlandish because you could tie it into the idea of fate. That fate still brought this to, because it's an event that needs to happen. To reference Across the Spider-Verse, it's a canon event. We were going to have one reference to it.
Yeah,
it was going to happen. But in that situation, then you could have what you're talking about of young Barry getting in the way. And he's like, we could have a similar situation. They meet, he's being a goofball, and he gets in the way, and he gets struck, and then old Barry, that's where the frustration comes more from him, because now he's like, now I can't do it. Now I have to, basically, he has to work with his young version of himself. We could spin it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know then if we're missing some.
I'm liking that better. I think, because I really just, it doesn't make sense to me that older Barry is like, I don't want to be the Flash. I'd rather have a mom. And then he makes himself the Flash anyway. I was like, okay. Because he was like, no, these powers are a burden. Like, I don't want them. Like, he was like, you don't want these powers. And then he gave it to him anyway. It was just because he explicitly said, you do not want these powers. And then he's like, we're going to go get you these powers 2 seconds later. I was like,
I don't know if he was really saying that he hates them. I think that was more of honestly a passing comment.
I mean, it
was the way I interpreted it.
It kind of was, but
I'm not reading enough into it, but that's
I don't know. It was just weird that maybe we just take that line out. Like, that also solves the problem.
We could also just take
I just
out that
prefer
line.
that. Yeah, I just was like,
fix here.
why did we have to have our veteran Flash have a clumsy moment and lose his powers that way? That was like, I would prefer that young Flash was being a goofball.
Well, the only reason why I feel like he loses his powers, and this maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe this is headcanon. The reason I interpreted that he lost his powers was because with the inhabiting a Speed Force situation that was happening. So I think him causing young Barry, you could say that him when he got caught in it, and maybe this is
what are you saying? Are you saying that like the Speed Force can only support one speedster or something?
I'm wondering. So this might be me reading this wrong. That is a way that I read it, and the reason is that once the original Barry gets his powers back, and they start actually using the Speed Force, that's when worlds also start to crumble along with them making changes. Maybe it can't, but I find it very, I don't know, for two different Barrys from two different universes in the same one feeding off the Speed Force feels like there should be a problem.
Yeah,
and maybe
I
that's
just don't think
that
there's enough
shouldn't be in the movie. But that was one thing that in my opinion, I kind of see a little bit of an issue with. And originally, that's where I thought the Dark Flash of the old alternate Barry. Originally, I thought he was, because I watched the CW The Flash show, I thought he was like
just
one
an
of the
agent of the
Guardians
Speed Force.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought at first, I was thinking, oh, this works well because he's messing with time travel.
Right.
And then especially after he gets his powers back and he wakes up, he has that vision of the thing like coming for him.
So just to clarify for our audience real quick, if you're not familiar, in the comics and in the CW show The Flash, Dark Flash is actually an agent of the Speed Force that protects time and usage of the Speed Force for messing with reality, which was not the case in this film, which I thought was an interesting spin. But just to clarify,
I did too, and I do like it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
that's where I'm conflicted, because I almost feel like making that change maybe makes it a little better for me. But I also don't know if that's
right,
because I don't know in that situation, is it okay to have two Barrys from two different universes feeding off the Speed Force of one? But they also
there just wasn't enough Speed Force theory.
Yeah, I'd have no clue how to interpret Speed Force in this film, because there were certain things that really weren't explained.
I think that's reading into it a little too much.
Or is it universal?
Like, I see where you're coming from, and I think that's a great solution, but it wasn't in the film. Like, that is a headcanon fan theory. I would have maybe spelled it out more explicitly, but honestly, I wouldn't touch Speed Force stuff, because we don't have any veteran Flash that understands the Speed Force, or any scientist. All we have is Batman, who's never met a speedster before. So I think that is not. I don't think that would fit in a revision. So I see where you're coming from, where having the two Flashes might break it, but I think that just gets too complicated. I would still just have young Flash be the reason that old Flash lost his powers. Like, he's like, hey, get me out of it. Like, even just change that scene so he's like, hey, get me out of this thing. I don't want the powers anymore. And he tries to run away. Older Flash grabs him or something, and then that's how they end up both getting struck at the same time. Something like that.
I mean, that's kind of what happens, because he kind of realizes that they have a confrontation in the chair. I don't think that really changes much.
I mean, he just kind of trips. Like, he's like, no, don't get up, and then he trips and gets in the way of the lightning. It's like, why were you standing in front of where the lightning's coming? You could have stood to the side. You didn't need to stand there. Whereas if there's a conflict there, then it's like, oh, okay, it was young Flash's fault. Where in this one, it was very much old Flash was just being dumb. It's a simple fix. That's why it just bothers me, and that's the point. To me, that's part of the point of this podcast. There's some things where it's like, this could have been really cool, but there's just one dumb thing that kind of ruined the moment, and that's what it was for me when I watched. I was like, really? Like, to me, we have a mentor-mentee situation. That's kind of what's going on between the two of them, and they're both still young. They're both still learning, and like, old Flash is not that old. But that's sort of the dynamic they're supposed to have, and so for him to be the reason that he gets messed up just doesn't really work for improving the characters and building what the characters are supposed to be in the story.
Yeah.
But I think we've dwelled on that enough. I mean, do you agree or disagree with that solution? That we just say, okay, how about he gets his way out of the chair and they wrestle, and that's how they both get struck? Do we think that's an improvement?
Yeah, if you're wanting to, it's a small change, but if you're trying to make it a bit more obvious of the confrontation, especially to build off later, and also to, like, when it's figured out that he's Dark Flash, that's where you could see the slight root of his anger that's hidden beneath his, like, the young Barry, beneath his, like, funny, trying to be funny exterior.
Right. Because you could even play into that young Flash. It's like, hey, I didn't want these powers. You made me get them. You can kind of play into that.
You could. You really could. And you can build that up a little bit more of how he feels, which we do finally see the really the big blow of it at the end of the movie.
Right. I think that, and that gives us opportunity throughout the movie to kind of have him be a little more angry. Because at the end, for me, it was like, I liked it, but it was quite a character shift from happy-go-lucky, goofy-laugh Flash to I'm gonna destroy reality to save my mom Flash at the end. Like,
I think it's close.
Like, they're there, but it's kind of like, to me, it's very similar to, well, not very similar, but it's analogous to Anakin, where he just kind of like, it's there, but it's not at the same time. It's very back and forth.
But I also think for Anakin, I think, if we're going to use Anakin as an example here, I think
it's not the best example. It's the first one on my head, but yeah.
No, but to using the Clone Wars, I guess, idea here, where everyone thinks with Anakin, if they've only seen the movies, he just turned all of a sudden.
Right.
In Clone Wars, you see the build-up.
So that's what I'm saying, is we add that build-up into this movie.
Well, I was going to say, I think there's more of it there. I don't think
there is more in this movie.
Change a ton. No. I don't think we need to change a ton with 2013 Barry. I think we need to change only a couple little things that would do a lot for him.
I would just
because I think it is there.
Yeah, I think it's there for sure. It's mainly just not super I mean, it's the same thing that I was saying about that lightning shock is it's so quick and fast you might not even notice it. And that's kind of what the case was for his sort of building up the darker side, where it was just so quick and fast. Granted, it's the Flash, so it's supposed to be quick and fast, but it was almost too quick and fast.
Man, this character development's really going quick.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a few more obvious seeds to kind of beat it over your head that, yes, this is young Barry, but he still loves his mom more than anything. He's still willing to risk the fabric of reality to save his mom. And both Barrys have to do the same character arc, which that I love, that both of them needed to learn that the world is more important than they are. And to be a hero, you have to give up like what you love most. You have to make sacrifices. And that was pretty powerful. So I would just, hammer home that theme in younger Barry.
So just to wrap up the last like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So we've kept pretty much the beginning of the movie almost the same with a couple line changes.
Yeah.
With the difference being that we're changing once he actually gets there. He doesn't have his powers off the bat. Mm-hmm. And instead of,
I honestly was thinking we even can keep that bit the same. Because then you get into how does he get the young Flash interested?
Why is young Barry there?
I would say that
why is he getting in the way?
I would honestly that's what I was I was swerving and being like, honestly, you could make the change even more minimal and literally just have it. He's like, Barry's like, Barry doesn't tell him what he's doing there. He's like, hey, I want to show you something. And then Barry like basically knocks him out and puts him in the chair because he said he was going to knock him out earlier. So he's like, okay, I'll just knock myself out, put myself in the chair.
But why would he bring him
force
there
myself
and
to
then
give
knock
powers?
him out? I don't think that
or knock him out and bring him there. Whatever. Order of events doesn't matter.
Honestly, I think my idea is better in my opinion, where it's this idea of fate. Let's make
fate
we
can do that. We can do that. I'm down for that. I think
I don't think it makes any sense if he was already thinking of knocking him out. Just knock him out and leave him there.
Right. Well, that's what. Yeah, but I mean, just to give him his power, he's like, he knocks him out, and he's like, oh shoot, I got to give him his powers, and he takes him over, and then young Barry's like, well, let me.
Here's how you do it. You could just do it the exact same way. He does end up knocking him out when he gets annoyed, and then he goes, and he's like, well, but he already tells him like the whole thing of before, because he's like, oh, you have a date and all that. Let's say that he says that beforehand, and he like realizes, oh, this is the night. I don't have my powers. If I can get my powers again, so he's like, oh, I'll just go recreate it. And because he does that thing where he talks out loud like he does to Iris. He does the same thing to 2013 Barry. He still knocks him out. He goes, and 2013 Barry is curious. And he ends up getting in the way.
Yeah, I mean,
we could spin it that way.
That works. Yeah, because the way I was gonna flip it is because like him getting in the way, I guess you could make it like a sort of an accident. Because originally when I was saying that, it was more of like him like trying to save Barry because he's like, oh, I need you to keep my mom safe or whatever. But alternatively, I was gonna say to keep it even more similar to what they gave us is opposed to him saying, oh, young Barry, I'm gonna give you powers like I have. He's like. He tells him that, and young Barry's like, oh, okay, what do I have to do? He's like, you have to get struck by lightning. He's like, wait, no, I don't want to do that. And he's like, no. So then old Barry, knocks him out, forces him over there, ties him to the chair, and he's like, all right, we're gonna get you your powers. He's like, no, let me go. And then older Barry has to like hold him down, and then he still gets struck by lightning and loses his powers that way. It's similar.
I don't know if we want to tie him up.
I mean, he does that in the movie. It's the same.
Well,
it's the same thing.
What do you mean he ties him up?
I mean, he locks him into the chair, like he's got the wrist cuffs, doesn't he?
No, that's when.
Is he just sitting in the chair? Is he just chilling?
He's just sitting in the chair.
I could have sworn he strapped him in the chair.
No, he didn't. He's like, okay, you're gonna sit right here. Because why would he get in if he was getting strapped? He doesn't know what's happening. He just thinks he's chilling.
Well,
he was not strapped in at all.
Okay, I'm just misremembering now. It's been a week.
Yeah,
now, but...
I honestly think if you want to change the minimal amount of stuff in this,
I mean, it's just an alternate route. If you prefer he falls through the roof, I'm down with that or whatever. That he's messing around with his friends. Well, we can do that. I don't think it's the best solution.
Or again, if you want to, and again, if you want to keep it minimal, we can go back to this idea of just the only thing you really need to change is that it's just he is a reluctance. He comes along. he comes along, and Barry still has this idea of, oh, young Flash needs to if I'm ever going to get my powers back.
Mm-hmm.
And we could keep that. I actually think that makes more sense for why he would bring young Flash there, because he's probably thinking, oh, if young Flash gets his powers back, I'll get my powers back. And I think that makes more sense than him having his powers off the bat and trying to get young Barry his powers. And I think that small change would work for then keeping the rest the same up until the moment they're there. And we, instead of tying them up, they just have a slight confrontation in terms of he tells him, oh, it's no big deal. You're just going to get struck by lightning. And he's like, what? And then they just have like maybe a little tussle and young Barry gets
struck and older Barry doesn't. And so it's not as much a moment. Okay, it's not as much the moment where he loses his powers. He just doesn't get them back. He's like, wait, why did it work?
He just doesn't get them. And
he's
like, and I think that works better in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, yep, that's it. Lock it in. We're running out of time, so let's move on.
So then he got his wish by getting young Barry his powers, but it didn't give him anything, so he's upset. And then young Barry was forced to do something he didn't want to do. So now they're both upset.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of plays more into the conflict. But I think we can keep young Flash being like, oh, shoot, these powers are actually kind of sick. But he's kind of mad about how it went down. So you have a little bit of both.
That's my suggestion if we want to keep the least amount of changes with just making a couple things. I think it goes, in my opinion, a long way now that I'm thinking about it, of getting rid of Barry's powers the moment he enters.
All right. I think we keep that. All right. So
moving on. He goes through his old, I have powers. Hey, look, I'm naked in the street. We can go through that whole deal.
Yeah.
And then we get into
which maybe I'd do differently,
General
but
Zod.
we can keep it.
Yeah.
That's more of like I just didn't like the way they did it, but what it was trying to do was good, so we keep it.
Do you think the changes that I'm suggesting make it better though?
Yeah, you're right.
Like, would you be happy with that?
It's yeah, I like that. I'm just talking about after the fact. So him getting naked, but that
let's move on.
I'm just like we can just leave it. But
remember what we said. We're not trying to make entirely new
right,
movies.
Exactly. So yeah, Zod.
So now, Zod. So Zod is coming, and this is obviously the moment in the movie. Regular Barry, he realizes, oh, I have because you keep having Eric Stoltz mentioned as Marty McFly. So in this moment, he's like, oh no, I've broken reality. In Zod, and they go and they try to find the Justice League. They can't, but they do realize that Batman exists. And they find him. So then I think this is a natural transition to
one thing before we keep going. I want to say when they first see Zod on the TV, remind me, does young Flash does he say like, oh shoot, I gotta go get mom? And older Flash is like, no, because I feel like that's one thing I would do is just add that, have him say, I gotta go get mom, I gotta save mom, and Barry's like, wait, we can save mom by stopping Zod. That's the better way, and we'll save more people that way. To kind of draw the difference that older Flash wants to save everybody, young Flash wants to save his mom.
You could probably make it a little less obvious and just be like, but that's the thing. He doesn't know why he's there. So the mom thing doesn't really make as much sense in my opinion because he doesn't appreciate his mom. That's the whole point.
Well, okay.
It makes no sense for him to bring up his mom.
But he does appreciate, maybe say my parents, but because like you were saying that end bit is pivotal on he doesn't want to lose his mom. He's got to save the world.
But he comes to that. I don't think he is there. That's my thing. I don't think he's always there.
Right, but we need to set the seeds of that earlier on because
I think
it's just weird to be like, oh wait, I care about my mom in the last act of the film.
No. I think we did. I think it's when Barry confronts young Barry. I love that scene.
I do like that scene. I do like that scene.
And so I think it makes no sense for him to show any care about his family beforehand, really. You could show a little bit. You could have a throwaway line about him being like old Barry is like, we need to go find Batman, and young Barry's like, wait, what about my parents?
That's what I mean. Yeah, something like that. Right. That's not.
But you could have it as a seed of old Barry thinks that 2013 Barry doesn't care, and 2013.
No, I wouldn't be like, oh shoot, I gotta go save mom. I gotta go, but oh, we should go check on mom. And Barry's like, no, we'll get to that. Something simple. Yeah, and I'm not saying like a crazy moment, but literally just one throwaway line that basically says he does care about his mom. He's just not he's still taking her for granted though. I wouldn't change that.
I think it's nitpicking, but if you think it would help, sure.
I think it would help. I think it sets it up. I think that's a bit bigger.
Anyway,
than a nitpick.
let's
just to
get to Bruce
set
Wayne.
up that thing. But yeah, let's get to Bruce Wayne. This is gonna be a long one.
So, yeah, I know. I already knew it was going to be.
Whoo! You guys are buckled in. Thanks for sticking around this long.
Buckle in for the first one, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael Keaton Batman.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take?
Like, do I like it? Do I not like it? I would have preferred it wasn't in the trailers because it kind of ruined the moment because I knew the old guy was going to be him.
I mean, there's a lot of things that
not really sure why he was like, why his house was completely trashed. That was kind of random, just for the fact of him having long hair to conceal himself.
I really, yeah.
I don't think it needed to be. I think it would have been better if it was like, well, I mean, I think you could have done it that way, but like have have him like see a newspaper, like find a newspaper on the front that says like Joker burns down Wayne Manor, family legacy destroyed or something.
There is the illusion that
there's the illusion
Alfred
of it.
Died,
there's the illusion of it, but just put something to be like to put it to rest because there's not like a clear reason. I mean, that's a dumb solution. I do not like that solution of putting like a random newspaper somewhere. But, you could have Barry being like, what happened here? I mean, I guess they kind of do that. And maybe have Batman explain it later when they're talking about people they've lost. But
he could just be like, decades as Batman in Gotham does a lot to you, especially all the people you lose along the way.
I mean, he did say that.
Something like that.
Huh? He did say that. Pretty much
but I guess
word
maybe
for
a bit
word.
more explicitly. I don't remember that line.
I mean, he talked about losing people along the way, so...
He did, but I guess you could make him like maybe harp on it a little more.
Yeah, you could do something explicit like they do in Batman v Superman with the Robin suit with the spray paint. You do something explicit like that, but it's Alfred's face.
You could do something like
you have like that's all you have to do. You just have like a picture of Alfred that's black and white with like flowers around it.
You
or
could have
something.
like a picture of him and Alfred,
like a memorial. Anyway, that's more of a nitpick, but yeah.
Maybe he like goes out and like maybe you have like Alfred's grave out in, like on the property, and he goes see him at a point before he decides to become Batman.
Right.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so besides that, yeah, I think the old decrepit Batman again with like just some slight changes, I think it works.
Yeah.
In general, though, his performance I thought was really good.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Batman's always a treat to see in a film when he's fighting crime, and especially seeing Keaton again with the suit.
No complaints
for
Keaton from me.
It's great.
Yeah.
I will say to which I had alluded to in the beginning, the moments where we were specifically pointing back to callbacks, like for example him saying "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts," made no sense in the conversation.
Yeah.
He's like, the Justice League, well, we could really use a Batman, and he's like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And it's like, there were better written ways of leading into that line if you wanted to use it.
Yeah.
Where he could have been like, I know, probably something like, it'd be crazy. We'll probably die or something. Like, I don't know. You could like heighten up the stakes.
Like have young Flash be like, dang, man, this is nuts. And then he goes, you want to get nuts? Let's get just have a lead in.
It doesn't even have to be some super
again
clever,
minor change makes the scene so much better. Because I was like, okay, that's cool, but that was just kind of random. I was like,
really? You couldn't have thought a better way to lead into that?
Yeah.
I was like, it was so close.
I know, like you could have done it, but
really, besides that, like I'd say throughout the movie, he's one of the most consistently good characters in portrayal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change almost anything with him when he decides to help Older Barry toward the end when he
like
dies,
the whole
and he's just thing. and he's like explaining time travel and I just wouldn't change almost anything.
No, I say leave it. I say let's move on to Supergirl. I'm curious what your thoughts are on Supergirl.
This could get interesting.
Yeah, because I'll start off because my thoughts are pretty. Honestly, I liked Supergirl. I will say I was actually really glad that they went with Supergirl over Superman because one of my favorite things in Flashpoint Paradox
I'm glad about that
is when they go to save Superman and he's like all scrawny because he's been in a cage for forever, so he has no muscles, he has nothing from the sun because he's never seen the sun, so he has no powers, nothing. He's just a frail little man. And then the scene when he flies away, as soon as he gets the sunlight, he just flies away because they're like, oh shoot. But the scene when he's like basking in the sun, this scrawny Superman, I love that. And like her build was like as close as you could get to that in real life, where she's not, Henry Cavill bulky, but she's still like I really like that. They pulled it off
in a pretty similar way with Supergirl, and I think that also was a good move. I just wish I'm okay with them honestly showing Batman in the trailer. It would have done a lot more if they showed more of that and showed more of other stuff and kept her the secret in the movie.
Right. I honestly would have preferred that.
So when the audience, because
both of them I wish were not in the trailer,
but I'm okay enough with Batman.
I'm okay with both,
people
but
in seats. It makes sense.
In my perfect world, neither one was in the trailer.
But honestly, I think they could have redone the trailer, redone the marketing. You could still have the S. Use the S symbol.
Mm-hmm.
But don't make it known that it's Supergirl. Because through the whole film, the moment he hears, oh, we need to find Kal-El, we need to find Kal-El, you're just thinking, oh, and what's going to happen when they find? It's Kara.
Right.
Like, and granted,
marketing.
That's not a fault with the movie, but that's a fault with the marketing that led a lot of people into the movie, so I have to talk about it. If they didn't, honestly, thinking it that way, I think the movie works pretty well with introducing Kara.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Because it plays into that pretty well. Of like, oh, it's not him. And Barry, when he's like, oh, we need to help her anyway, because that shows like, oh, I care about people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he's like, this person needs our help. And he talked about it earlier with trying to help during the whole Zod attack.
Talking about which Barry?
Old Barry.
Okay.
Yeah. When he first started and he tried and he went in to go save that kid, it plays off that. So I think that works already in the original film. And this is granted we're talking about changing marketing.
Right. Which
is really
I think we can move on from that. I mean,
but I think I did want to mention it because in my opinion it did a lot to take away from Kara's reveal.
I would agree. But to move on, I think because when we were talking about young Barry's motivations, one thing that really was confusing to me was his conversation with Kara on the roof of Wayne Manor. Because to me, that was sort of the first moment where we saw him care about someone other than himself, which is why in that final scene, to me, that's what he's fighting for. Because we never saw him do that for his mom. Which in that conversation he has with older Barry, you definitely get, he actually does care about his mom, and he knows how lucky he is where older Barry didn't have a mom. So you definitely know that that's in his mind, but the only thing we see visually is him and Kara. And so when we see Kara get stabbed and he's visually very upset about her being stabbed, you're like, okay, his motivation is to save Kara in this moment. So then when the ultimate decision is I'm going to give up my mom.
I really didn't get the impression he cared a crazy amount about Kara, except that one random thing where he was videotaping her.
I mean,
that is honestly the only time I read anything about that.
Maybe it was just my tainted view of the marketing because I knew that was coming. Was that scene? That was the only part they really showed of dialogue between the two of them was him filming her.
And that's the only thing that I thought for me that.
But
was
regardless,
just a
even if it's not like romantic, that's still the first person we see him care about other than himself, right?
That he starts to open up to a little bit, yeah.
Right. And he does with older Barry, but he's been with older Barry the whole movie, and so it's a little different because that's like somebody he doesn't really know, and so that's what I was talking about, that sense of heroicism that Barry has, right?
About the rooftop scene.
I'm not saying that I would necessarily change it.
Okay.
I would probably ditch him videotaping her from the cockpit. I don't think that added anything to the movie.
Let's please get rid of that. Because I think one thing is we're dragging our feet a little bit through the movie. We need to actually figure out what are we wanting to change.
That's what I'm trying to get into is the finale, right? That's what I'm trying to get into is how do we clean up? How do we let me finish? How do we clean up young Barry's motivations for the end, because that is what drives the finale of the film. I like the fight with Zod. I like that whole bit. I think we jump straight into the hyper bowl, the time bowl at the end.
You immediately want to get into that?
I think so. I mean, would you change anything before that? I liked the whole fight with Zod.
Probably not. Honestly,
I think we jump into it.
Zod fight's pretty good.
Zod fight was great. I thought the transition from, oh shoot, Kara just got stabbed, they lost. Granted, I think they should have highlighted more that was like the definitive loss. Because to me, I was like, oh, they could keep fighting. And then they very much could not. So I might have done something. But nothing off the top of my head that I wanted to get into. So I think that's just an anecdote that we abandoned. I want to get right into the time bowl thing, because I think they did a good job of saying, no. The real fight isn't fighting Zod. The real fight is fighting time itself, right? Fighting reality itself. That's what I want to get into, because I did like a lot of what they did in that scene. I liked the twist that young Barry was Dark Flash, and that Dark Flash caused our Flash to end up in the wrong time, and create himself. I liked the paradox there too, alluding to the Flashpoint paradox. I liked that. The cameos was an interesting bit. It was very it was cool, but it was random. It kind of messed with the flow of the scene.
The payoff for me, it was payoff for me.
It was payoff enough as a fan. As a fan, I liked it. It's something that I'm not sure how I'll feel about on after multiple viewings. But you've seen it twice, so
I will never not smile. Again, spoiler alert. I will never not smile seeing Superman Lives Tim Burton's Vision on screen for a moment.
Dude. I laughed so hard.
I enjoy seeing Nick Cage Superman.
My parents were so confused because they didn't know. And that's kind of the reason I'm like, the cameos. Because for us, we know exactly what that's referencing. It's hilarious. It's wonderful. But for a lot of people, they're just like, why is Nicolas Cage here? What? Like, it's very random.
Yeah, but I'm going to throw all that out the window and say we completely keep it because...
Yeah, that's fine.
One of my favorite parts of
No, I'm not saying we throw it out. I'm just calling out that it was interesting.
And I love
because it doesn't affect the story. It doesn't really affect the story. It was just a visual eye
Also,
candy.
the specific thing they had him doing, again, random note. The random thing they had him doing is also very important, and I'm glad that they specifically had him do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically fighting off the giant spider.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know,
mm-hmm.
it's great.
Yeah.
But I think that cameos in general work for me. I think in general that scene works for me. But I think it happens so...
Mm-hmm.
If one thing that we could change with the ending, and maybe they do such a long time in this movie building up to this end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ending is generally good, but I feel it's a bit rushed.
Yeah.
Is a bit of my issue.
And that's kind of why I brought up the cameos, is because there's a lot of time dedicated to that piece that isn't
I almost think you need to draw out the causal loop solution thing a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
To really show to audiences this is our actual conflict, because it does not last long.
Right. And I think part of the problem...
At the end of the movie, it to use flash puns, it runs to the end of the movie.
Yeah. I think part of the reason they did it is because they know audiences want a very flashy, spectacular finale. And that was a very grounded, emotional finale. In serious, that's what it was. That's what it needed to be, and I think they were afraid to fully commit to that, and for fair reason, because this is aimed at a large audience. Superhero movies have a large reach, and so they want to impress people with a big, flashy finale, and that's kind of the failing of modern blockbusters, is they need to have the big, flashy finale like that Zod fight was, and so that's kind of the drawback, because even in the original, it's kind of replacing the scene where Barry is fighting Reverse Flash, and that again is a very grounded fight. It's the two of them trading blows, going back and forth, but there's not really a whole lot of superpowers in that moment. It's really just Reverse Flash dragging Flash around and being like, "Look what you've done! You've ruined everything. This is your fault. I didn't even do anything."
True, but
where in this one, it's done super well. It's done super well. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying, it's a very grounded moment, and that's what this film was afraid to commit to, is that grounded, you made a selfish decision and destroyed the world doing so. Is that what you want your legacy to be? And Flash is like, no, of course not. But young Flash is sort of our vessel to extend that lesson, because old Flash, our old Flash is like, okay, he realized his mistake already, but he's trying to salvage it. I want to save the world where my mom lives. But
I almost wonder if there's a better way we can do this. Hear me out here. What if, potentially, to build up to it a bit, because I think there needs to be more of a fight, in my opinion. There needs to be more of a conflict, of actual fighting, in my opinion, between a Flash and a Dark Flash. The way that I see that this could play out, and they kind of build up to it, and I think they could, is let young Barry keep trying
while
and eventually when Dark Flash shows up, his immediate reaction, maybe he does, instead of step in the way and get stabbed by Dark Flash, maybe because he's starting to get bloodthirsty a little, he steps in and he goes and kills him, and then he the whole face thing falls apart, so then you can see that it's him. And so then, instead of just, we have young Barry sacrifice himself, which granted, audiences would like more because then it makes us like 2013 Barry a little bit more. I almost wonder first if you have him kill Old Flash, Dark Flash, trying to save regular Barry. He realizes it's him. Old Barry dies as Dark Flash, and then because of this, he still keeps going. And at this point, regular Barry is like, look what is happening right here. If we keep doing this, we're done. And he physically has to fight him to keep him from breaking reality. And eventually
Fight
does.
Young Flash?
They could have some Young Flash if he keeps going. That's what I'm saying.
So you would have older Flash defeat Dark Flash and then fight younger Flash.
No.
I'm not.
I would have the moment where Young Flash, he goes off. This is the problem of having so many Flashes.
Yeah.
Where Young Flash goes off that one time and Dark Flash comes in.
Yeah.
And then is like torturing Old Flash there for a moment.
Right.
When Young Flash comes back, have him do what he did to Zod's right hand woman and kill Dark Flash, actually. Like, have a little skirmish and kill him. Mm-hmm. Reveals then that he just killed his older self.
Yeah.
And maybe even his older self, like, validates him and tells him something like, you should keep going, do it for mom or something like that. Uh-huh. And then you have it to where at that point, young Barry is kind of stuck on this path. He is now like, he keeps at it. But at this point, now regular Barry, our Barry, mm-hmm. tries to get in his way finally. Instead of being like, no, you should stop, and then just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
Instead, he's like, you have to stop. And if you don't, I will make you. Because this is more important than mom. And then you could have some words exchanged.
Right.
And he actually has to fight him. And with that, you could have both a physical confrontation, but also an emotional confrontation between the both of them that really gets out their emotions of how they feel of trying to save mom versus the world and what's important. And then eventually, maybe 2013 Barry kind of realizes that and, like, sacrifices himself in a different way or kills himself. Or maybe lets old, like, because you can't have old Barry kill young Barry. That's not what we have. Like, that ain't gonna work for the hero arc here. But I do wonder in this scenario that I'm coming up with, in that way, you have 2013 Barry basically is like, my world's gonna die. You know, you go save mom, or he dies on his own accord.
Yeah. So
because I just think there should be more of a confrontation there and a bit more talked about. And I think it's almost like when Dark Flash shows up, they're just all like, yep, I've been doing this for a while. Wait, you're going to kill... And then just young Barry just gets in the way, and that's it.
Right, yeah, I would definitely draw that moment out. But okay,
I think that needs to be... in my opinion, there needs to be a fight in there.
I would... Yeah, I think... There's definitely room to expand there. I see where you're coming from. I think this is kind of the tricky part of the movie is... It is all like we already have a paradox of older Flash, younger Flash, Dark Flash, all in the same space from different branching timeline, whatever, spaghetti stuff. And it's kind of tricky because you're like, okay, why doesn't old Flash just run back, kill his mom, and go to the future and everything's fine now? I guess you can say that they're all in the Chrono Bowl together, so they would travel together or something. So I'm basically trying to think around some of the why doesn't Flash just run away and not deal with them? Because the simplicity, at least with the simplistic ending that they went with,
because if
at least with the simplistic ending that they went with, it's there's no room for that to happen. Like it's fast and that couldn't happen. So
with a bit,
I agree that it would want to be longer. I would agree that I would want it to be longer, but I'm just saying there's a riskiness to making it longer to audiences becoming disinterested and losing the emotion of it due to the logic of it. So basically, I'm just
to the counterpoint,
laying the groundwork.
Counterpoint it, because me and you disagree on this very much. That could come up in other movies. We disagree on how we view time travel in movies, though.
I like that this one. I like this one. I really like that this one basically just said the rules don't work.
Everything works because for me, I like the time travel in Back to the Future where you don't. To be very clear, he likes Back to the Future.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't throw me under the bus here. I like. Yeah.
No.
I like the movie. Don't like the rules.
We've talked about it, but I think that's a difference here. I think that's
no. I would agree.
My view.
This movie does take the Doctor Who timey-wimey and then puts a visual to it. I actually really liked the way they explained it with the spaghetti. I think that was really clean.
I don't mind that at all.
I'm not saying that's a problem. I think it works very well. I'm mainly saying I'm not saying that we can't make it longer, and not saying we can't have like weird intersecting paradoxes in this finale. But I'm mainly just saying we need to be aware that this scene could the power of the emotions in the scene, which is what this scene is built on, could be lost by frustrating characters. It's like when a character has the bad guy in a headlock and then like, oh, but I'm gonna let you go because I'm a good guy, and then they run off and kill like 20 people, and you're like, oh, why didn't they just shoot the bad guy right there? That's what I'm afraid this moment could be. So I'm just saying we need to be aware of that.
So what's your issues with what I suggested?
So part of it is I'm having a hard time keeping track of our flashes, but I don't know. I would almost have still have Young Flash die early on and close his arc, but mainly just have him give older Flash an opening to escape, right?
But if you kill Young Flash, you're killing Dark Flash. That's the thing. You have no more physical form of the conflict.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, and I think there's so much, in my opinion, there is so much more of a interesting because we've already built up conflict between the two Barrys the entire film. So I think Dark Flash, it's good to use him as a way to finally express it fully in showing it. To reveal to the audiences, get rid of him, and then let the conflict fully explode between the two Barrys.
Because I'm almost thinking, I get so you're saying have Dark Flash go away earlier and have the two Barrys we've been with the whole movie fight.
I'm saying have Young Barry kill Dark Flash.
Okay.
2013 Barry kill his future self in his blind anger that he's in right now. And then express that his blind anger is there because of Dark. Like, you can see it through Dark Barry as he dies. And then you have that physical and emotional conflict fight between the two Barrys who have been trying to work together, have had their bond together, but have also been at odds with each other.
Yeah.
And it finally is exploding the little bits that 2013 Barry has been hiding inside of him.
Yeah, I see that.
Because we've been establishing that current Barry has been putting him down. That's been an established thing. Like, hey, look, you're like, at times he's been like, I'm sorry, but he's been continuously like berating him and putting him down and acting like he is less than regular Barry. And I think it's good to have the consequences of that show in the way that regular Barry was pushing young Barry.
Yeah, I like aspects of that. So I think to me the biggest thing that's kind of holding me back from going that way with a revision is that our audience has been rooting for this one character the entire movie with no indication of them being a villain, and then all of a sudden you're saying, oh, without any like real gap, they're a villain now. Whereas when you get Dark Flash, it kind of makes sense. Oh, he's been doing the same thing for eternity. It's going to drive you a little crazy, and that's where you kind of turn bad.
This is where me and you.
There's seeds there, but I don't think there's enough there to say that he's going to fight him. That Young Flash is going to fight. Let
me explain something real quick, because this ultimately might just mean, if we don't get past this, that we disagree on the ending of the movie, which might just be the case.
It might be
ultimately, but for me, we have spent no time at all, and this is the one thing that I hate about Marvel movies, and this is kind of a Marvel movie-ish ending with this character. I want to build up. We've been building with these two characters specifically, and in my opinion, with the second viewing, it's there, and we've talked about it. We've elaborated on it, me and you, and adding some additional stuff. You can make it more apparent of 2013 Barry's even honestly resentment maybe to regular Barry. We have established something with them, and we've been building up to something, and we see that explosion a little bit in the movie where 2013 Barry yells, "I am the Flash," and that's all that it ever is. But then there's Dark Flash, who we've gotten a couple glimpses of the big bad, and he is actually our villain in a way. But in my opinion, it works so much more if we keep it that way. People think that he will be the big bad. And in reality, it's been 2013 Barry, who is a complex character. Who's just emotionally enraged. Rather than, let's go with the generic superpowered dude who's gone insane.
Right. Okay.
Because that's the obvious villain, and they do nothing with him. They show him 2 times looking menacing in the movie, and then he's there, and he's like, "I've been at this for years. You have no long how long.
Right.
You have no clue how long I've done this," and then get stabbed.
To me, though, Dark Flash is still young Barry. Like, he's still this. Like, I didn't see them as
but it's,
like, I know that they aren't a waste. It's more of a, if you take young Barry to his logical extreme at that moment, that's where he is. And I can see the connection. So to me, it did build off of it, but it left enough room for me to get over any sort of character development hangups.
There was no payoff, in my opinion, with the Dark Flash. Like, there's the payoff of, "I've been doing this forever. Come on, Barry, we just got to keep doing it." Which maybe, again, like you said, they took a different route of instead of trying to do a big fight.
I mean, I could change.
I think you can do both and make it stronger.
I could see alternatively, he comes back and he says, "I've been doing this for," instead of "we got to keep doing it," he says, "The only thing the only thing that changed in this universe is you. You must be the reason that this is happening. I need to destroy you." And that's why. And then he wants to fight fast.
What he says in the movie.
Flash. I mean, but instead of him saying, "I got to keep trying," because he basically says, "We got to keep trying," and Flash says no, and he's like, "Fine, if you're gonna get in my way, I'm gonna stop you." Right? That's what he says in the movie. He's like, "You're not gonna stop me. I'm gonna keep trying." Whereas you flip it and he says, "The reason that all of my efforts are failing is because of you."
He literally says, "You are the event." I forget exactly the wording, but he literally calls out regular Barry and says, "You are the..."
Right, the cross point on the spaghetti or whatever.
Yeah, he literally keeps saying that.
But
so, like, I don't think that really... I think that's already how it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I see where you're coming from. I definitely see where you're coming from. I just don't know that...
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying there is a better way to
I'm just
do
not...
this,
I agree that there's
opinion.
a better way. I'm just not sure that making 2013 the final fight, that young Flash being the final fight, is the solution.
It doesn't need to...
Unless I'm completely missing your point.
I mean, maybe we just read... Because we've kind of seen this throughout. Maybe we read 2013 Barry differently.
That might be it. Because, I mean, I definitely see the seeds there. I definitely see the seeds there.
I love the idea of this almost idiot young Flash accidentally go down the wrong path of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost like it's almost like, because it's very easy to point to Barry Allen and compare with Peter Parker. It's almost like seeing an alternate path that Peter Parker could have taken.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like seeing, with the Uncle Ben moment, it could really change him.
Right.
He went down the right path, but it could have been differently. And that's kind of how I see 2013 Barry. And in the consequences of it is caused by regular Barry. And he recognizes that, and it gives him more, put it more toward his arc.
I definitely see
Flashpoint,
that.
because Flashpoint has to have consequences. And by the end of the movie, what consequences does he have outside of, hey, look, George Clooney instead of Batfleck?
Okay, yeah.
Like, I want to see... Flashpoint is supposed to have lasting consequences. I think it would be, in my opinion, if you are doing Flashpoint, you have to have very real consequences of his actions.
Okay, I mean, if we're talking about that bit, that's a different... That's moving beyond it. I think, yeah, I definitely think that the ending could be less happy.
But that's why I'm saying you could even change that slightly. But I think it goes a long way if the end of the movie isn't just, hey, look, 3 berries in a room, one stabbed one. Okay, everything's good now.
Right. I mean, I agree with you there. I would make the fight.
I'm not really hearing suggestions from you about how it could be different. I'm hearing you saying that.
I mean, the beats are the same.
It can be, but I'm not really hearing from you.
Right. I mean, I'm still thinking through it because I'm thinking through what you're saying and what I'm trying to figure out what I like about it and what I don't. Because I do like where you're coming from. I'm mainly hung up on. You're talking about following through with Young Barry's arc, which I agree. I think it does follow through with his arc that he becomes Dark Flash and wants to save, wants to stop Flash.
Because that was
from
actually one of my favorite
that
parts
I like.
of the movie, especially on the rewatch, is seeing, like, now that I knew what happened to Young Barry eventually the first time, seeing it the second time,
right.
I really enjoyed it, even though it was so small. Seeing those moments of the anger
right.
coming,
and
from
I
them
see,
more and more.
I see that, but to me, I don't see that arc finishing without him trying repeatedly to save the world. Like, I feel like that's the last piece of the arc, becoming Dark Flash.
No. And we
and
can
so
we can continue that.
And so we still, I mean, you still have Dark Flash, but I'm just saying you want Young Barry to kill Dark Flash and then have Young Barry fight Old Flash. And to me, Young Barry hasn't gone quite far enough to be to be that evil conflict. He is sort of to me, he is at an inflection point in that moment. He can go the dark path and he can go the light path. Dark Flash then comes and says, "This is what it looks like if you take the dark path." And then he decides, okay, in that moment, he says, "I can either be Dark Flash and take the dark path, or I can sacrifice myself and take the light path."
I think depending on what Dark Flash tells him, in my idea of him getting killed by Young Flash, 2013 Barry, I think it could be something along the lines of, like, don't give up, keep doing it, you can save Mom. Like, not tell him how long he's been there. Like, it's obvious for sure.
Right, but then you just get a loop, right? Like...
Yes, we're already in a causal loop, though.
Right, but...
How is that any different? You say the rules of this are perfect, but...
No. I mean, I say I like them,
loop.
but... So, well, no, it's not, right? He kills Dark Flash and then dies.
Well, yeah,
so,
but I mean
no.
originally. No. I mean originally, because Dark Flash kicks him out, and he sends him on this path originally.
Right, but I mean, it's like a one step, because then Young Flash kills Dark Flash, so then Dark Flash never existed. So if we're talking about logic stuff, I'm leaving logic out of this, because they basically say there's not really any rules to it.
Then I don't see your issue with my suggestion if you're taking logic now out of this.
So, okay, but so Dark Flash dies, Young Flash doesn't. Dark Flash tells Young Flash to keep going, and Young Flash says, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go kill my mentor now." I'm not seeing the
more like I think
I'm not seeing the emotional beat
you're
there.
in my way.
I'm not seeing the.
I think it's your. I don't think he willingly wants to. I think he could even be like, "Don't do this. Like, don't get in my way." And then
now okay, now you're getting me on board, because I can see,
because that's what
says,
I was trying to explain, and maybe I
can see Dark Flash saying,
that's why I'm
okay. So if Dark Flash says, if he kills Dark Flash, and Dark Flash is like, "No, you don't understand. You can do this. If it wasn't for him," points at older Barry, dies. Young Barry's like, "What is he talking about?" And Barry's like, "Wait." He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Wait, you caused all this, didn't you?" And he says, "What?" And young Barry's like, "Well, you're the reason that any of this happened. None of this would have happened if you hadn't gone back. I can stop this if I get rid of you." And Barry's like, "No, I did cause this by saving Mom." And he's like,
exactly
"No."
What I was suggesting,
okay,
but that is a bit
I'm
more,
fleshing it out a little bit, because
thought,
I'm really struggling with I like the arc of what you're saying, but I'm not seeing it follow through.
Give me a minute. Let me see if I can actually explain what I'm saying.
I mean, am I not following anymore? Did I swerve too hard?
You're on the right.
Where
path,
did I lose
I don't
you?
think you're quite what I was thinking. I don't think you're quite there.
Where did I lose you?
Well, let me explain. So, in my head, with how this plays out, like how you just said before, Young Flash kills Dark Flash. He says, "No, you can do it. You just need to keep trying, no matter what."
Well, see, that's where you're losing me. Is that's just so vague.
No.
That's just so vague.
Let me finish, please. Otherwise, we're gonna be here for 2 hours. Just please, let me try.
This is your third try, but go ahead.
I know, but you're interrupting my try.
Likewise, continue.
So, viewers, hope you're enjoying.
Oh
this.
yeah, this is what we wanted.
He kills him. I already knew it was going to kind of.
Oh yeah, it always does. It always does.
Anyway,
that's why we're doing this.
So, yes. So he kills Dark Flash. Dark Flash is basically like, insane, and he's like, you gotta keep doing this no matter what gets in your way. You gotta save Mom. You can do it. And because he's already in that mindset, and it very apparent after getting stabbed multiple times from the failed tries already. 2013 Barry is about to go again, and old Barry's like, I can't let you do that. Do you not see what's happening around us? Everything is collapsing in on itself. And maybe it starts out like less confrontational.
It's before Dark Flash showed up.
This is after he is killed.
Oh, okay.
Dark Flash showed up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Now
no, I'm following. Continue, I'm following.
Okay. Yeah. So then young Flash is thinking, I need to go do this again. I need to keep trying. That's all I need to do, and it'll work eventually. And old Barry is like, no, you have to realize what we're doing here. Every time we do this, it's ruining reality, and it's breaking around us. We can't save Mom. And basically, young Barry's like, you're in my way. Please move aside. And he's like, maybe he even like pleads with him, like, I don't want to hurt you, but you need to move. And old Barry's like, I'm not moving. And so then you have that emotional and physical conflict then engage. Do you see where I'm coming from now?
Yeah. I don't see what the point of Dark Flash is in that. I think because you can get there without Dark Flash. He doesn't do anything.
I disagree, because I think Dark Flash can show. You can still have your moment with Dark Flash, of him talking, because I think Dark Flash, in my opinion,
because I would almost do this. I would almost keep what you're saying.
Please let me finish this one.
Okay.
Thought. Please let me finish. I'm really passionate about this. Please let me finish this off. 2013, I do actually view 2013 Barry and Dark Flash as the same, but I see them as the same, showing different characteristics of the same person, where because of the years of insanity and his appearance, Dark Flash is showing externally what is internally 2013 Barry. I think that's what Dark Flash does, in my opinion, for viewers. I think it is the final reveal to the audience of the path that 2013 Barry is on.
Right.
I think it is showing what he will ultimately become at his end, like you're saying.
Right.
But I think in this way, it shows why regular Barry needs to make him stop, because ultimately he won't stop. It's not in his nature to stop. He can't, because this is what history has proven. And if he keeps going, reality is going to just disintegrate.
Right. Okay. This is my last zag, and then
I will let you have your zag.
I like that, but do exactly that, but don't have Dark Flash show up yet. Have him. I gotta keep trying. No, I'm gonna stop you. Like we can't save Mom. Don't get in my way. Do that moment. Have them fight, right? Have older Flash get the upper hand, and you're like, oh, this is over, and then have Dark Flash show up and punch him across the face or whatever, knock him down. And then have Dark Flash say, I've been waiting for this moment or whatever, and then you have Dark Flash, then you have the Dark Flash moment right there.
Wait, who did Dark Flash just hit?
Older Flash. Okay, right.
Older Flash. Okay.
So then young Barry is about to lose, and Dark Flash is like, no, we got to keep going, right? And then he says, I've saved you, I created you, and now I've saved you, and now you have to finish my mission. You have to stop this, right? And so that's Dark. And then that's the moment where young Barry finally is confronted with what he's becoming. And then you can still have him take a heroic turn at the end. Because I do think that works for his character. Because we've been seeing him train as a hero this whole movie. So have him just be a villain at the end and that's it is kind of not the best payoff to me.
You want
so
to
keep that, keep the fight.
Taking,
but then append the Dark Flash at the end.
I'm taking, but you want to have a mirror on him to show him what he is becoming.
Yes.
And change fate.
Yes.
Way.
Exactly.
Okay. I think I'm with you now.
Yeah.
It took several
we
minutes,
got there.
But I think I'm with you.
Because that way you get the visual arc of young Barry, but you still get the payoff of him being a hero, and you still connect the dots with Dark Flash. Dark Flash still matters, but the villain is like Dark Flash is much better connected to 2013 because you've seen him fight older Flash.
Yes.
I like that. I think that's our solution, guys. Thanks for bearing with us.
Wait.
What are you doing now?
We have one more thing to.
Golly, these poor listeners have been here for 2 hours.
It's only an hour and 20. They're fine.
All right.
They can wait a couple.
Is it really? Okay, I was not keeping track of time, so
I'm tracking. It's only an hour 20.
Dang! Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We got one last thing to talk about here, and I think I know where you're going with this.
Honestly, I would not be surprised. If with us just going in circles if you just edit.
I might because that took a while.
I don't blame you if you do.
I don't know if I have the patience to listen through that again, but I might have to get people to listen to this.
Anyway, we still need to talk about the very end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly, if need be, but we still need to talk about it. So he goes back in time. Mm-hmm. Whatever happens, both Young Barry and Dark Flash are now out of the picture. Yeah. So he goes back, and honestly,
I like the moment with his mom.
Same.
Keep that.
I like the moment with his mom. Keep it the exact same.
Then when he gets to the future, right?
But then what do we do when he gets back?
George Clooney, the end. Boom. What a goofball moment.
Okay.
What a goofball moment. I laughed so
because apparently,
hard.
So I do want to talk about one thing I did hear about how the film actually was supposed to have a different post-credit scene.
Okay. Yeah, because that was garbage post-credit scene. I wish I didn't stay for it.
So it was supposed to actually have another one, and it was involving Batfleck basically being like, "Hey, Barry, find us." And realizes he's like in a different he's in a different universe. So it's Batfleck specifically being like,
don't like that.
Hey, Barry. Well, you could, but I'm still saying like I actually think it'd be good if you almost have in a way like we bring back Batfleck.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that specific Batman.
I don't like the "Hey, come find us." That's weird.
Well, it was sort of like "Hey, come find us." I mean, you can look it up. I'm kind of paraphrasing,
right.
But it was basically like Batfleck contacting him, being like, "Hey, you're in a different universe."
Right, but there's no way for him to get back to the I mean, it's kind of hard because they're unlike Flashpoint. They're doing the same thing that MCU is doing, where they're entangling time travel and multiverse.
And we don't have to do that. I'm just saying that it showed a different way that could have gone. I just don't think George Clooney is the thing that we finished this film on.
No, that was goofy. Like,
which is why I want to.
That's like an end credit scene. That's like an end credit moment, not a end of the film moment.
That is a
that's
that
a post.
Yeah, that's the
scene. That would have been a fine post credit scene. But I do like you go to the future and maybe like I liked what you were saying where there's consequences. I'm not sure how you do it with it being a satisfying ending though. You know, like maybe like I feel like the one thing you do like because the way that it does it in Flashpoint is perfect with the note from Thomas. You're like okay, like all of the pain was worth it for Batman's satisfaction. That is the best part of that movie, hands down. And so it was really hard for this movie to follow that up. I don't really know how you do it better than that.
But I don't even think it tried.
No, it obviously couldn't try. I don't like. There's nothing that you could do like that. I don't really know. The only thing I can think of is
okay.
Somehow, like his mom. Like I feel like in that scene, his mom may have recognized him. So I almost feel like the one thing you do is that he goes back to his old house, goes through his stuff, and finds a letter that his mom wrote that day, like or finds her journal. And there's maybe we add him reading his mom's journal at the beginning, and then at the end he reads it, and there's a new entry about her meeting some guy at a grocery store.
Maybe like after his dad is like cleared, they like get. Like maybe they go through the old
stuff. They go through the old stuff and they find this one journal entry about some guy that she met at the supermarket that she imagined was him when he grew up, and she hoped that he would love her as much as that guy loved his mom. You know, something like that. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's it. I don't know if you like that, but yeah, I think that's it.
Let's get rid of the drunken Arthur Curry.
Drop that. Put George Clooney post credit. There, that's it.
And then let's
I actually love that. I actually love that journal entry about him that they find. I like that a lot because he wouldn't have gone through the journals honestly, so he wouldn't have known. I like that. I like that a lot. I honestly think you could tease it at the beginning. You could tease like they've got these journals, and he's like, "No, Dad, we'll go through the stuff when you get out." You know, like in the jail scene, just kind of tease it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm satisfied. I think these folks are.
Maybe you could even have it like, hey, what do you want me to do with like mom's old journals?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, just tease it at the beginning. Whatever.
Yeah. We don't have to.
We don't have to. We don't have to
honestly,
fix that,
I think that works so much.
I love that actually. Better for the ending. I love that because that satisfies the whole thing. Because that's the closest you can get to that Thomas Wayne bit.
Yeah, which we don't have to replicate it, and it is different.
It's different enough.
It is different,
but it gets a similar beat to end on.
Because otherwise, it's just Barry goes back and is like, his dad's set free. Hey, look, George Clooney.
Yeah. His dad,
which was honestly,
I
think,
okay. It was good, but
it just felt too happy for me, and not in a sincere way.
Right. But
like I get what they were going for, but it didn't quite land for me.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the revision. That's what the show is all about, arguing, and
we swear they won't be nearly this long.
Yeah, we weren't watching the time and we stuck around at the beginning too much, so might chop that out. But
so maybe it's not quite out.
I don't think I'm going to go back over it.
If you maybe just put a time.
I mean, we're learning, right? We're learning. I think we just got to be more careful with
if you guys enjoy what we were doing here in general, of us taking a movie that is relevant, people like, but also have issues with in general too, and us trying to make changes here and there. If you like that, we have a lot of movies we are planning to go through very soon.
I'm excited about next week.
Like a once a month. Next week, do you want to tell people what next week is?
Yeah, you know what it is, right?
Okay.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, baby. Indiana Jones 4.
Interesting.
Yep, we're trying to keep on theme here. We don't want to do the new movie. We're
not gonna be. We have a couple obscure.
We want to go touch on one that's a bit more, bit more, been around a bit longer, a bit more digestible. Flash was interesting, but I'm not really sure about Dial of Destiny just yet.
The new Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, so we'll do 4. Hopefully you guys like that. Hopefully it doesn't go quite as long, but. Honestly, if you guys like the long ones, tell us, because I was having a blast. I don't know about you guys, but
me and you just ripped it.
Honestly, yeah, that was fun. That was fun, just yelling at each other.
But see, we're all cool, and that's what this is all about. Me and him working together, seeing where me and him can compromise and make a better movie.
I love those fixes.
Because we all love movies here. We all want movies to be the best that they can be.
Yeah. Honestly, I might cut this out, but I want to summarize all our fixes right here at the end. All right, so what did we do? What did we do?
This might be a bit. Maybe this is our.
This is the important bit.
So what did we do?
Start off talking to his dad. He mentions some journals that his mom had and some things. He's like, hey, like or honestly, have his dad say like, hey, like, you still have your mom's old journals? And he flashes like, yeah, but I won't look at them. Honestly, have them in his room when Iris is there, and Iris comes in, bro. She's like, what are these? And he's like, don't look at those. And that's his mom's journals or whatever. I love that. But anyway, have those journals there. Then have young Flash basically try to get away from getting the powers and make that more of a conflict.
Make that
more of a conflict. Don't have Flash have the powers at the beginning. Is that a fix? Is that a preference? I don't know, but mainly just make that more of a conflict, and then I think you could go either way with whether he has the powers by going back. Because I think that makes sense for motivation that, we got to get the powers back. I'll have my younger self get struck by lightning. But, and then that's when he figures out how time travel works more so. It's more spaghetti. So I like that. Then we have what? Then... Honestly, I think we just kind of have it mostly the same. We said maybe have maybe that one moment where he mentions where he worries about his mom when Zod shows up. Have a brief mention of that.
There's a brief throwaway
line. And
we give a little bit more for Bruce Wayne, maybe involving Alfred. Something to show Alfred's
visually show Alfred being dead. Maybe a gravestone or a picture memorial picture, something like that. Just to kind of build up that history.
The line of when he says, let's get nuts.
Yep. Just have a lead into that. And then at the end, instead of...
No. With Kara, there was also the thing with get rid of him videotaping
rid of him videotaping Kara. Easy fix. Then the ending, which is our biggest fix, where we think that it would be better if young Flash keeps trying and older Flash realizes that he needs to stop his younger self and just go and undo what he changed, causing conflict, causing them to fight, and at the end of that fight, just as our hero, older Flash, gets the upper hand, Dark Flash shows up, stopping him, calling on his younger self, young Flash, to team up with him, defeat their older self, and save this world. Young Flash, in that moment, chooses to be the hero and stops Dark Flash, sacrificing himself, allowing older Flash to change the past, keep that the same, where he visits his mom, takes the soup away, goes back to the future, keep the court scene with his dad, but have them go through the old journals, find a journal from his mom about meeting this guy at the grocery store that day.
And then change out the
and then put
scene
Clooney in the end credit scene and get rid of the Aquaman one, because what was that? The end. I hope you guys liked this episode of The Revision. I think that was a pretty good rewrite. If I do say so myself, I think might not have been as tumultuous as the actual production of this movie, but hey, I think it's solid improvements.
I think it's definitely a worthy revision.
Let us know what you guys think. If you're watching on YouTube, leave it in the comments. If you're on any streaming service, we'd love reviews. Maybe we'll get a Discord or some kind of community set up where we can get some better feedback. But yeah, you guys can head over to the YouTube video and drop comments there of what you thought of our solution. Did it work? Was it worse? Was it better? Is there something we missed that could have made the movie even better than our solution? What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, we want to hear from
you guys.
Did you
Even see
Flash?
How
do you think we could make it better?
Let us know in the YouTube comments. Thanks for listening and bearing with it's going back and
also,
forth.
just real quick, also, don't forget to, if you have any ideas for movies you want us to cover too.
Absolutely.
That you feel could definitely be fixed, that are, you'd like to hear us talk about, also let us know in the comments.
Leave those suggestions in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.